And welcome to episode 424 of Geektown Radio. I'm your host, Dave, and as I mentioned last week, we've got a little shortage of co-hosts at the moment because Gray is stuck under piles of marking, basically, because he's a teacher. So he's going to be off for a few months. So I thought we'd introduce some guest co-hosts for the next few weeks, and one of those, the first one up, is CLONEKORP. So, Clone, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. My name, well, full name, CLONEKORP. You can just call me Clone, you know, for sure. I mean, we can think of some other pet names down the line, see how we get along. But yes, I'm a full-time character comedian, 3D digital artist, game show host, talk show host, improv extraordinaire. I've been full-time on Twitch now for 6 years. I've been a content creator since 2006, working with channels from 3K to 3 million followers, doing TV-level productions like game shows and raves and all that kind of stuff. And actually, about a year and a half ago, I thought, why not get into game dev? So I downloaded Unreal and within 5 months, released a game on Steam. That was actually called Thanks Killing Day. We actually got Doug Cockle, the voice of Geralt from the Witcher series, who plays as Geralt. And
nice. Yes.
Yeah, we got him to do the main character. We got Sandy Johnson, who played as Judith Myers from the original Halloween, the first person to get killed by Michael Myers. And Cinnamon Toast Ken, he's a YouTuber, but I did some voices in there, but I was also the director, did all the level design, all the fixed camera angles, which was absolute hell. There was about 500. But I was directing a small team of 3, and yeah, within 5 months we actually managed to get a full 4.5 hour game survival horror experience, which is kind of like Silent Hill, Resident Evil, kind of like a genre vibe, you know, 90s low poly aesthetic. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. I've grown a lot of gray hairs though since then, so because of that situation.
I can imagine. Yeah, a lot of work. Wow.
But yeah, I'm now taking the game dev side of it and now putting it into live production and see what I can do with that. Because ever since I found out about Mandalorian and how they use Unreal Engine for all their backdrops, I'm like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, the whole the volume thing really does start to blend things together with the that big like LED screen. They actually use that on the recent episode of Doctor Who as well. Not a full volume, but it's like an LED wall they used, which used exactly the same technology that they used.
So impressive.
It is. It's amazing how they've pulled that together, and I mean, it just looks really good, and sort of saves time and doesn't save time because you've still got to do all those like 3D backdrops and stuff. Just you can do it beforehand, and it sort of saves time with the lighting and that sort of thing because you can.
That's incredible how you get real-time lighting, and it also allows the actors on set to be able to look at stuff in the backdrop or instead of pretending and looking at a ball on a stick.
Yes, that's got to make a huge difference as well. So
but yes, that's me.
Awesome. So where are you on the socials and stuff if people want to go and find a bit more about you, just so people know?
If you want to search me up anywhere, it's just CLONEKORP, clone CLONE, but Corp is spelt with a K because I'm really cool. I grew up listening to Korn, and it's not at all because someone had Corp already.
I'm sure. No.
But it's CLONEKORP on everything apart from Instagram, where it's got TTV afterwards because someone decided to steal my name as a name. So it's just like, oh, great guy, thank you.
That's annoying. Yes. Yeah. We're Geektown on a load of things, and then there's a few places we have to be Geektown UK because somebody's nicked the Geektown names at the moment. It's very frustrating. But anyway,
terrible.
So we'll start off, as we always do, with just general stuff about what we've been watching and stuff we've been doing recently. So, Clone, over to you. What have you been watching and playing recently?
Oh, well, obviously, like, I don't know. I say obviously, but are you a Fallout fan yourself?
Yes. Very big Fallout fan.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, I'm a huge Fallout fan. Well, I got into Fallout, I'm sure, like a lot of people in like when 3 came out, on consoles and everything. And I was just a huge fan since then. And like when they announced they were doing a TV show, I was kind of on the fence because a lot of adaptations, in my opinion, not the best, you know? And like, I just started recently watching that Avatar Last Airbender. And I've only got 4 episodes in. I was like, I've already quit.
Oh, dear.
It's just like, oh God, they've taken away all the humor. But with the Fallout show, it's just like, oh my God, this is such a love letter to all the fans. They've got all the details in there and everything. And like, I won't spoil it if you've not seen it yourself yet, but they've absolutely nailed every detail of it. And like, as soon as I got that done, I was like, right, guys, we're going to do a Fallout subathon. So I decided to do like this whole thing where I was just playing like the Fallout games from 3 onwards. And when I set this subathon up, because it was my first ever one, I was like, it's only going to last 6 hours. It lasted 10 days.
I mean, there's a lot to get through with the Fallout stuff, though, to be fair. I mean, you surely should have thought that through a little bit.
But people, like, with a subathon, how it works is, like, as soon as someone donates, it adds a certain amount of time. Or if they subscribe or drop bits at Twitch currency, it extends the time. I was like, okay, like, every donation adds, like, I don't know, £10 adds 20 minutes or something like that. And it's just like, everyone's just like, okay, let's add about 50 hours, you know? It's like, bloody hell, like,
oh, well.
It's a good time, you know?
Yeah, that works. Why not?
I was wearing a full-size Pip-Boy replica as well the whole time to be fully immersed.
I've got one of those as well. They're not light, those things.
No, they're not. And like the way it's made, like the plastic was like rubbing on my wrist the whole time. And like when I ended the whole thing, I was like, oh God, I'm going to get a blister on there. And people are going to think, how's he got that?
Yeah. So one arm slightly longer than the other now.
Yeah. But yeah, so like we played all those, and like I've recently as well got myself back into, I never play mobile games, but I've been playing Fallout Shelter.
Oh yes,
it's a fun little game, and like, you know, every time I've played it, I've like got to a certain point, I've gone, okay, I'll leave that, and I never got back to it. And this time around, I've gone, you know what? I'm going to get 100 vault dwellers. I'm going to build this all up. I've actually done it now, and I'm like, okay, that's something off my bucket list. I've got 100 vault dwellers now in Fallout Shelter. But yeah, no, it's a fun little game. Have you tried that out yourself?
I haven't for a very long time. I sort of, you know, when it first kind of came out, I played around with it a little bit. It is a fun little game, and I think the base thing is free. It's one of those things where you can buy stuff for it.
Yeah, like the thing is, back then it felt like you had to pay to like get some fast track of like progress or whatever, but now it just seems like they don't care, and they just give you all the currency for doing small tiny things like watching ads or whatever. So I think the Nuka-Cola bottles, for instance, is the currency in there, and I think if you buy a pack of those, it's like 6 or whatever for like $4.99 or something. I've got like 108 now just by watching ads. It's like I'm rolling in it.
Excellent.
But yeah, that's good. Like taking that away. Yeah, so you're not forced into paying.
Good, because that was always the thing that slightly put me off for it. But yeah, no, it's a fun little game, that one. You know, it's slightly more relaxing, and not. I mean, you know, obviously it's not like the big 3D games, but it's fun little addition, I think.
Oh yeah. But yeah, no, other than that, like I've been getting into VR again, like obviously with Fallout 4, like doing the whole Fallout subathon. I was like, okay, we're going to do it in VR and everything. And
oh, wow.
Like when I initially tried that, when it first came out, it was broken. Like it just didn't want to work with my headset and my rig and everything. I didn't have as strong a rig back then, but yeah, it's well optimized now. And it's like, this is great, actually. And I just, when I was having little breaks on my stream, I was like just sitting down on the bench, just having a vape for a second, just taking in the wastelands. Like,
that's good.
Yeah, really good stuff.
I have got a VR headset, but I've got the Meta 2 at the moment.
Okay, it's a good headset.
Yeah, which is it's a perfectly decent headset, that, and I mean, I quite like the sort of the pass-through thing for the Meta 3, but it's a perfectly nice, decent headset. I don't think my computer's quite powerful enough to run it through, because I think you can connect it up to Steam and that sort of stuff with a bit of messing around.
You can do Steam Link now, so it's all like over Wi-Fi and everything. But I've been an Oculus user since the development kit too, so I've been using it for like about 10 years now, I think it is, something like that.
Yeah. I don't play VR anyway as much as I really, really should do, but there are some great little games out there. It's quite good fun.
I'll be honest, I'm the same. I don't like, there's so many, and it's like, I should get around to it, but it's like setting it all up and everything. But the best VR experience, I say to everyone, is Elite Dangerous. You get yourself the flight sticks, get the headset on, put on the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, And just lose yourself in space, mate. You Star-Lord.
Yeah, that I can imagine. I've got hours and hours and hours in Elite Dangerous. I haven't played it. I haven't picked it up for a while, but yeah.
Nice. What did you do? I was a bounty hunter.
A few different things. I mean, I just sort of trundled around and made money where I could, and I got 735 hours I have in that at the moment. So
nice. I think I'm around the same. I'm up there because I got it before it came out on Steam. And I was actually telling a friend about this the other day. You'll love this. When I got the development kit 2 headset, I could not sleep. I was trying out all the free apps and everything for like 3 days straight. And I paid, I think it was like £70 for Elite Dangerous off the Frontier website. And I remember like playing it and going, this is amazing. And I fell asleep during hyperdrive. I fell asleep and I woke up, and you know when you come out of hyperdrive or whatever, you land at like a sun, right? Like a star.
Yeah.
I was laid there in my chair and I was like, what's that bright light in my light? Slowly, because the heat from the headset as well, dude.
Yeah, that was very so disorientating.
I'm joking for 4 seconds. I was like, I'm in space. How did I get here? Have I been abducted? Oh, it's VR. It's okay.
Whoops.
Terrified, but it's amazing at the same time.
That's awesome.
Oh, brilliant.
So, what else have you been up to then?
Other than that, I'm getting my team ready because other than doing all this other stuff, like, you know, I can't be all work and no play. I've got a small team of other content creators that I've been friends with for years now. And we've come together and we've shown a love for Destiny. I used to make fun of Destiny. I used to be like, I play a real game to my mate all the time. And then he bought me the starter pack. I was like, look, mate, I'm going to play it for 10 minutes. I said this on stream. I was like, I'm going to play it for 10 minutes. Don't get offended. He's like, it's okay, dude. It only cost me $15. I'm now 1,400 hours in. I'm a leader of a guild that's got like 50 members.
That went well then.
I know, right? I was just kind of like, oh, okay. So this game is not what I thought it was. But we're all about like the raids and everything. And there's a raid coming up next month, which is a huge event. What they do is for any brand new raid, if you don't know what a raid is for anyone that's listening, it's basically imagine like a 6-part mission. You have like, say 6 areas and stuff. And in each area, it's like you're in the most extreme escape room ever. And you have to work out how to get through this room to the next area.
Right.
And like, for instance, like there was one time we started up this brand new raid when they did the raid weekend where nobody knows what it is and like any details about it. We're like, right, guys, this is exciting. Let's start it up. And we're dead. So it's not like, oh, you got to shoot everything and stuff. It's more like, okay, you got to work together and like work out all these puzzles and everything. It's incredible. I've never actually experienced anything like this ever in any game. And
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was actually like this. And that's what's really got my attention about the game. I mean, don't get me wrong. The lore, the story is the thickest I've ever heard or seen, you know, in any franchise. But when it comes to doing like the raids, it's such a. Did you ever play stuff like anything from Software, like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or anything like that?
No, I've never been massively into those sort of things. So no, not really.
So, to give you kind of like an example, say, for instance, you go up against a boss, right? It's the same kind of experience, like where you're just stuck on it for days. Yeah. It's like you finally do it and it's that, oh my God. It's like that, but on a whole different scale. And then you got your whole team, you know, that I remember one raid weekend, we were stuck on one area for 20 hours. And it was just, okay, look, let's have a break for a bit. We got back to it again. And then we managed to bash through it and actually complete the whole thing. But like just getting to the end and doing it with your team and stuff is such a great like feeling and like, you know, experience and stuff. And it's great team building, you know, like, like bonding and everything. We've gone through all this trauma of all these horrible like experiences. It's just like we managed to overcome them stuff. But yeah, like they've got the raid event coming up on June 7th, which I'm going to be live streaming the whole thing. And all my team members are going to be live streaming too. Cool. And it's basically like a raid race. Whoever manages to finish it first in the entire world, you get physical prizes like jackets and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, dude, they really go all out. Like, I didn't realize this. It's mad. I mean, I only found out recently they do things for their collector's editions where they give physical items for the community, for anyone that's got the collector's edition to to work together on the internet, like on forums and stuff, to decode stuff and actually get like geotag locations of like actual physical items that Bungie have left there in the middle of the woods or some stuff like that. It's incredible.
That's marketing extreme. That is
really, right? But we've been training up for that. But other than that, I've been trying to catch up with some old films and everything. I've watched through the for some reason I was like, you know what, I want to watch Starship Troopers. Rico's Roughnecks, why not? And I've got a few friends and we were talking about that the other day because the same director he did was it RoboCop and everything. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. I've always loved his stuff, but I only found out recently because they've got 3 live action movies. First one's amazing, second one's terrible, third one it's like it's filmed on a handy camera. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I've seen the first one. It's Paul Verhoeven is the director.
That's it.
Who did the first one but didn't do the subsequent movies.
No.
So yes, did the first one, which is an absolute classic film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the others not so much.
No, not at all. But I only found out recently they've got these CGI movies. I was like, okay.
Until you mentioned it on here, I had no idea they existed.
So when I was growing up, because I love this whole vibe where, like, I don't know if you remember that much, but how all these adult films also had like a kids show counter, like, you know, like Saturday morning or whatever, like Rambo and RoboCop and everyone. But like they also had a CGI kids show for Starship Troopers, which was proper out there. I'm sure it's all on YouTube or something, you know, but the CGI movies aren't like that. They're like completely mature rated, like the original movies and everything. But I believe they actually have the guy who does Rico playing Rico in those movies because it sounds identical. Yeah. But no, if you're a fan of the first movie, just ignore the rest and go straight to the CGI because I believe they continue straight from the first film. It's really cool.
Cool. That's really interesting. There's talk about them sort of making reboots and things of that. They've been talking about that for ages. But I know they've done video games and the cartoons and that sort of thing. Yeah,
there was a recent video game actually that they brought out. And I think it got overshadowed by Helldivers, sadly, because they literally brought out I think it was a 16-player co-op Starship Troopers first-person experience that's on Steam.
Yes.
And I haven't got round to it yet, but I saw that. I was like, I would have loved that as a kid. I've always loved Starship Troopers. I'm actually, it sounds terrible. I used to watch all these films as a kid, you know, like really young. I was watching like
definitely
Alien and Predator when I was like 5 or 6. You
know? Definitely not age appropriate. But, you know.
But I remember watching Starship Troopers for the first time as a kid. I was just running to my parents all the time, like, oh, this guy's brains just got sucked out. This guy just got beaten off. Oh my god.
Not wanting to question your parents' parenting skills, but
they thought, oh, it's an alien film, it's all right, it's nothing brutal. I was like, little did they know.
Oh dear. Wow.
Oh my god. But other than that, like I actually to do a complete 180 on movie style genre, you know, when you just have a random flash memory of, god, I remember watching this movie years ago, I've only seen it once, you know. I just remember this movie called Envy. Like I found out about it by like, I think I bought it in Sainsbury's for like £5 like years ago. I mean, this came out in 2004, so it must have been about 2008 I bought it or something like that. But it's all about Ben Stiller and Jack Black, which is a complete out there combination of actors that I never see working together well, and they actually go together perfectly. I'm surprised they've not done more work together.
Yeah.
But it's all about these two guys that work at a sandpaper factory and Jack Black's like a dreamer. And he has this idea for creating a spray that when you spray it on dog poo, it makes it vanish. He calls it vaporize. And Ben Stiller all the way, like, you know, in the beginning, he's like, don't do it. It's a pie in the sky idea. It's terrible and everything. And Jack Black's like, no, I've got a guy who knows these things and we're going to try it out. I'm making a prototype. Basically, he makes it. It works. He becomes a millionaire and everything, super rich. And Ben Stiller's just there, like, he could have put in $2,000 to be a partner, but he chose not to. And then he's just there in the shadow of his mate, just seeing him be so successful. And he's just there with nothing. So it's kind of this really dark comedy comedy about like how he's dealing with his envy and stuff, and how he does one bad thing and then it just snowballs and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it's such a funny ride. And I am surprised that like it didn't get more love than it actually did, because when I ever bring this up to people, no one's ever seen it.
No, I mean, it wasn't a film I was even aware of. And just looking at it, it's Barry Levinson is the director of it, who is the same guy that directed Good Morning Vietnam and Rain Man. So, you know, he's not a bad he's not a bad director. And then it's Ben Stiller, Jack Black, Rachel Weisz, Amy Poehler, and Christopher Walken the cast in it. So you kind of look at it thinking, why didn't this hit bigger than it
Honestly, dude, it's actually really funny. It's a feel-good, funny, dark comedy, which sounds weird saying feel-good and dark comedy at the same time, but it makes sense when you watch it and you're like, oh, okay. Why can't there be more movies like this?
Yeah.
Really good stuff. That's everything I've been doing recently.
Awesome. It's an interesting selection of things you've got there. Definitely.
Oh, yes. I like to have a bit of variety in life, you know.
Yes, yeah, totally. So I've been basically on TV shows more than anything else recently. The big one that dropped this week was Orphan Black Echoes. If you go one up in your feed for this podcast, you will actually have an interview with Anna Fishko, who is the showrunner and creator of this version of Orphan Black, based on the original show by John Fawcett. I actually interviewed Anna Fishko a couple of months ago, and it's sort of they didn't want me to release it until it was out, so I've held on to it for a bit. That interview is in the feed as well. But have you seen any of the Orphan Black stuff, like the original or this?
I've not seen any, and I've been told for years to watch this.
Yes.
I feel like this is going to be the thing that makes me watch it.
So it is all on ITVX, including all 5 seasons of the original show as well. So the original show is on there, which starred Tatiana Maslany, and you really should watch it because it's about clones. So, you know,
well, there we go then.
Perfect for you. Definitely. So the original show starts off with Tatiana Maslany. She's at a train station and she sees somebody who looks exactly like her jump in front of a train. Seemingly. That is the sort of starting point of that. And it then becomes apparent that she is a clone, which she didn't know about. And there are lots of versions of her around, and she is playing all of the characters. It is outstanding tour de force performance by Tatiana Maslany on that original series. It's quite incredible. And she's often playing against herself in scenes, and you absolutely completely forget that it's her playing both roles. It is an astounding piece of work, and it's worth seeing those 5 seasons. If you haven't got the time to go through all 5 seasons, you don't need to have seen them to go into Orphan Black Echoes. You can start there, because Orphan Black Echoes is set in the future. It's set in 2052, so it's sort of a near future. So some of the technology's moved along a bit. What they tried to do with Orphan Black Echoes was they wanted to deal with the sort of clones, because that is the basis of, you know, the original show, but they needed to do it in a different way. And also they kind of wanted to do it in a way where it didn't mean that they had to mess around by duplicating one person and like all the hassle that comes with filming that.
Yes, I've done that many times before in the past, and it is a nightmare.
Yes. So they've worked out a clever way of having the sort of clone thing in there, but approaching it in a slightly different way and having different actors playing different versions of the characters. I
was going to say that, like, give some kind of like variance or whatever.
Yeah. In this particular case, rather than sort of cloning from DNA and growing them, they are printed. So they are printed people, but they are printed from medical records, so they can be printed at different ages. So that allows them to use different actors for the characters at different ages.
Oh, basically. Wow, that's really clever.
So Kirsten Ritter, who you'll know from Marvel and Breaking Bad, she plays Lucy, who is the main lead role, who has no idea who she is, but she's a clone literally from the opening scene, or she's in certainly that area, because when we first meet her, she wakes up and she has no memory of who she is. The doctor that is there and trying to sort of introduce her into the world is played by Keely Hawes, who you'll know from like a million different projects. She plays the Doctor who has a key role in sort of creating Lucy, basically. Right. There are some characters from the original show that do show up as you go through as well, but you don't necessarily need to know who they were from the original series. It just adds a bit more texture if you have seen the original show. Right. So it does work if you want to just jump in here. But as I say, the original show is so good, I would actually go back and watch that and then jump into Orphan Black Echoes as well. All 10 episodes of this season are up there. It's had a slightly odd release schedule, so we don't know whether it's got a second season yet, because whilst when the title card comes up, it says AMC Plus on it, it hasn't actually aired on AMC or AMC Plus yet in the US. It doesn't air over there until June. It aired first on the channel Stan in Australia in 2023, and then it was added last week on ITVX here, and then June 23rd it goes out on AMC and AMC Plus in America. So they won't know about a second season until it's gone out there.
Okay.
But really, really good. It's a great continuation from the original show, and it stands up in its own right as well. They've done a really wonderful job with it. The casting's great, takes things in a slightly different direction to the original series. They've handled it really well, connects together. Definitely worth checking out that. But you can go and find it all on ITVX. So nice. Worth going to look at that.
Yeah, I'm adding that to my list.
The other thing, of course, Doctor Who back for its third episode of Russell T Davies's new Doctor Who with Ncuti Gatwa. The third episode was an interesting one because it also brought back Stephen Moffat, who, of course, was showrunner for a while, but started off as sort of writer, then became showrunner, and then handed over the reins to Chris Chibnall. So he's come back to write one episode. He's also writing the Christmas special this year as well. And the episode is called Boom. And the way he basically sold it to Russell T Davies was he just emailed him and said, what if the Doctor stands on a landmine for the entire episode?
Brilliant. I love it.
And like literally 30 seconds after he hit send, Russell emailed back going, yes, do that. So that's essentially what it is. They land in this battlefield and the Doctor steps on a landmine, and it's very much a Stephen Moffat script. It's really got his feel to it. You know, the dialogue is fantastic. The bouncing backwards and forwards. Ncuti is once again absolutely brilliant, as is Millie, who plays Ruby Sunday. So yeah, I mean, the casting between those is great. It's a really, really solid episode. I mean, Russell has been fantastic in this series in seeding various things. There are a lot of questions which we talked about last week that get thrown up. There is another thing which a lot of people have started to notice. There's an actress called Susan Twist, right, who has popped up in basically every single episode in different roles, just as background characters. Like in this episode, there is a sort of mechanical ambulance which has a screen on it with a female face on it, and she's the face of the ambulance. She also appeared in the episode Wild Blue Yonder as a background character, Church of Ruby Road, the Christmas special. She's been in the background of every single episode since. Russell doesn't tend to do things by accident. So there's a lot of people kind of going, okay, who is that and why is she in every episode? The suggestions floating around at the moment is it's an older version of Ruby, the companion. It could be Ruby's mother, because that's one of the mysteries we've got of who is Ruby for this season. There is the character of the One Who Waits, which is mentioned in the specials and has popped up a number of different times. So is that potentially her? The other interesting suggestion is it's Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, because Susan has been mentioned a number of times as well. So whether it is any of those, whether she's somebody else entirely, we'll have to wait and see. So that's been another interesting thing that's popped up. And Varada Senyu pops up in this episode as well, who has been announced as another companion joining in season 2, but she pops up in this episode playing a character called Monday Flynn. Okay. Which is interesting because you've now got a character called Ruby Sunday and you've got another character called Monday Flynn. So I don't know whether that's something. And we also don't know whether this is one of the situations where she's going to end up coming back as that character, which, given some of the interviews, it seems like she might, or whether it's one of those situations we've had before where it's just the actor has appeared in one role and they liked them and then brought them back to play a different role longer term. I mean, a number of the Doctors had appeared, like Colin Baker and Peter Capaldi had appeared in Doctor Who prior to them actually being cast in that role. Whether it's that or whether it's something else, we don't know. But yes, that was an interesting one because they kept that quiet, and suddenly the person that has been announced as a new companion was in the episode as well.
Oh, that's amazing. I do like that kind of stuff. I actually looked after, because I used to be a guest handler at Comic-Con event. I actually looked after one of the Doctor Who villains. Forgive me here. It was like was it General Saltar? Have I said it right?
Could be, yes.
The alien dude with the potato head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know him as, was his name Mike from The Young Ones.
Yes. Mike from The Young Ones is who I know him from, yeah.
Lovely guy.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting season so far, and very, very much back on top form. So if you haven't jumped back into Doctor Who yet, this season, starting with the Christmas episode, is actually quite a good place to start. There is a reason why they called this season 1, partly because they've now got all this Disney money to play around with, but it feels very much like it's picking up, running with full steam, interesting, different, really,
I've heard
really
nothing but good things about this season so far. And I've not watched Doctor Who properly. I watched I was really heavy into the David Tennant Doctor Who, but I've not touched it for 6 years.
At least, yes.
Yeah. So it's been a long time. So I'm definitely going to add this to the list as well.
Yes, definitely worth dropping back in. The other thing that landed this week was the finale of Sugar, which is the Apple TV show starring Colin Farrell. Have you seen anything about this?
No, but I have been waiting for this to finish, because it's only just started, hasn't it?
The finale's just come out, actually, so it has been out for a little bit.
Okay, nice one, because I do love Colin Farrell.
It is really, really interesting. He's basically sort of playing this private detective character, seemingly has some sort of medical problems, some personal demons going on. Nice. He's essentially hired to investigate the disappearance of the Hollywood producer's beloved granddaughter. It's got this feel of those very old PI dramas.
Like LA Noir kind of.
It's set in LA and feels very LA Noir. That is until and it does that. It's got that vibe all the way through. Apart from when you get to episode 6, and I won't say what it is, but there is a complete left turn twist in the 6th episode, which you really don't see coming. There have been a few little subtle hints of it, but there is a really interesting twist that comes in at that point and pushes everything in a slightly different direction.
Oh, nice.
So it's a really, really good show. Certainly one that I would suggest you go and pick up. Rounds it off pretty well. Sets it up so there could be another season as well. I don't think they've even renewed it yet, but I think there is certainly a possibility that they could bring it back. It's a solid series from start to finish. It's got a really good cast.
James Cromwell's in it as well, and he's an absolutely fantastic actor.
He plays the grandfather whose granddaughter is missing, the sort of mogul. So he's in there. You've got Anna Gunn as well from Breaking Bad also pops up. So there's a really, really solid cast. It's a really great group of people. Goes in some directions you really, really don't expect. I think I described it when that episode came out was the episode of Buffy where you suddenly get introduced to Dawn, the sister.
Oh, yeah.
It's that level of what the hell just happened when you get to that episode. It's really out there. So if you've not seen Sugar, it's on Apple TV. All episodes are out now. I think there's 8 episodes in the first season. Well worth going to check out if you've not checked that one out yet.
100%.
Just a couple of games as well. Finished Kingdom Come Deliverance. Picked that up a couple of weeks ago because I realised I'd never actually finished it last time. I sort of got so far through and never kind of got to the end of it. Finally finished it all the way through with all the DLC. Really, really enjoyed it. It's a solid game throughout. There is a second one coming out, I think, later this year, they've announced. So I'm looking forward to that coming back. But it's a really, really good RPG if you've not picked that up and played. I mean, yes, the combat mechanics are a little bit janky, but there are mods you can put into it and make that a lot easier so you don't have to worry about it, which is what I did.
Oh, very nice.
So that I talked a bit about that last week. I finished that. Since then, I've sort of been jumping around from different things. I went back to Foundry, which is a factory building game, which I'd played a couple of hours on.
Great game.
Yeah, really, really good. Sort of cross between Satisfactory and Minecraft, that.
Yes.
And really enjoyed messing around with that. I jumped into Medieval Dynasty as well, which is another good game. That's a sort of medieval city builder, because having come off Kingdom Come, I was like, oh, might go back to the medieval sort of thing. thing. So I played around with that a little bit because I haven't jumped into that for a long time, and they've added a second map to that because the original, there's a sort of multiplayer for that now with a second map, and you can actually either multiplayer or solo play on that map. So yeah, that's Medieval Dynasty. If you've not played that, you basically build your own medieval village, but it's all done first person, same as Satisfactory. So you're building up huts and can build a little city basically.
Yeah, I'm having a look at screenshots for it, and it looks really nice actually.
Yeah, it is really, really good. If you've not played that one, that's definitely one worth going to pick up. You might guess from the selection of these, I am hugely into my city builders. So
I'm getting that vibe.
But yeah, that is a really, really great one to pick up. Yeah, the new map gives you a slightly different perspective because the old map is great, but you're playing a specific character and it's got slightly more of a story-driven thing, whereas the new map, you can create a custom character and it's slightly less story-driven, but there are still quests and stuff you can do on that as well. So nice. And there is multiplayer in there as well if you want to do that sort of thing. So yeah, that's really, really good. And the other thing I played around with Dyson Sphere program, which is another game which I played ages and ages ago and then hadn't sort of been back to for a while, which is another sort of factory builder where you control this mechanical robot. It's a sort of overhead one and you're building a factory on a planet, but you can fly to other planets as well.
Wow. So nothing to do with the vacuum cleaner then?
No, nothing to do with the vacuum cleaner. No. You're trying to build a Dyson Sphere, which is, I don't know whether you know what a Dyson Sphere is. It's basically a sort of shield thing that goes round a
star, right?
A star, yeah.
Yes. So like a mega structure kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a sort of huge space mega structure.
I'm a huge UFO nerd, dude. Like,
there you go. But that is another fantastic game. It's got really, really good reviews, and I hadn't jumped back into that for a long time, so I jumped into that a little bit and started playing around with that again as well. So
nice.
There's lots of sort of stuff. I'm at that period having finished one game and trying different things until I really, really get focused on something, and then I'll just play it to death for hours.
Oh, they look fun, dude.
Certainly games worth checking out, those. So that's all the stuff we've been doing this week. Let's move on to some TV and film news. So we kick off the TV and film news with the renewals, cancellations and pickups. We've just come off the back of what we refer to as TV Bloodbath Week, which is when all the US networks mow down or renew all their shows and introduce what their new schedules are to the US advertisers. And that sort of all happened last week. So we had a lot of renewals and cancellations. So this week it's actually pared down quite a lot in terms of certainly the cancellation side of things. There's one show on the CW, which I think has aired in a few places over here, but it's called F-Boy Island, and apparently that's not coming back after 3 seasons. It ran on Max for 2 seasons, and then
what a name! Sorry, F-Boy Island.
Yeah, it is exactly what you think it might be. Basically, it is a dating show, and it ran on Max for 2 seasons. For some reason, the CW thought this would work on broadcast, which of course it didn't. Bear in mind that the average age of a CW watcher is 58.
Brilliant.
I don't quite understand why they thought this would work on broadcast, but clearly it didn't. So, yes, that is not coming back for a 4th season.
Wow.
And the other news was The Outlaws, the BBC Stephen Merchant comedy that's set in people doing community service. That they are saying that the 3rd season is likely to be the final season. He sort of said never say never, but at the moment I think it wraps quite nicely, and I'm probably not going to do any more anytime soon because I think they shot the 2nd and 3rd ones back to back. So they've basically said that he's not going to do any more right now. He's got other things to focus on. So there may be more, but it'll be a while if that does actually come back for that. Those were the only sort of 2 cancellations this week. Some interesting renewals, though. This is a sort of could happen again as well. Shogun, we mentioned a little bit last week that they'd re-signed Hiroku Sanada, who is the producer and played Toranaga in the TV show. He'd signed on to come back, but they haven't officially announced that there were going to be more seasons. They're now saying that Hulu and FX have got their eye on possibly doing 2 more seasons, which is interesting because the novel is covered by season 1. So you're in a situation where they're going beyond the novel, which, yes, that has been the reaction from some people. However, you look at something like The Handmaid's Tale, and that went way beyond the novel, and that worked. It is also based in a certain amount of historical fact. So you look at something like Vikings, which took the basis of the historical fact and built a story of that. So there are precedents for how you can maybe make this work. And season 1 was so good. I don't know whether you caught any of that. That's on Disney Plus.
I saw a few episodes and it's really good. Because whenever I start a show, I'm like, okay, I'll watch a few episodes, see how it is. Okay, I'll save a day for that and binge it all,
Yes, that's quite a good way of doing it. Yeah. So that could return for 2 more seasons, but again, it's a could at the moment. They haven't officially greenlit it. It will very much, I think, depend on how they break the story and whether they think they can do it or not. But they are set up for that way, which is no great shot because, I mean, the critical acclaim for that show and the ratings for it were off the charts. So not surprised that they want more of it.
Yeah.
Over on Netflix, they've renewed 3 Body Problem. Again, this was an interesting renewal because they've basically said they've renewed it for the full journey of the epic saga, in quotes, is what they've said. Without saying how many seasons that's going to be or how many episodes that's going to be. So I think there are 3 books, and the first season was basically a book and a half or a book and a quarter, I think. You would think they probably need around about 2 more seasons worth of episodes to be able to finish off that run. I don't know how much bigger the other books are, though, so I don't know what the case is. But at least they've actually renewed it, and they've said they've renewed it for the entire story. My only slight concern is whether Netflix decide that they're going to try and push it into a shorter amount of space than it needs.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's an odd one for Netflix, that, but at least they have committed to finishing it. It's just the fact that it's the Game of Thrones guys running it, and we all know what happened when they tried to compress that last season. So I don't want a situation like that again. But they have said that they will finish the whole story. As to how many seasons or how many episodes that ends up being, we don't know. That's a sort of interesting renewal. Did you catch any of that?
You know what? That is on my list because I saw a trailer for that, and I've got a friend who I watch sci-fi stuff with, and I'm like waiting until we get some time to watch that together because there are some actors in that. I'm like, oh yeah, I like them. And like, I think one of the guys, he was in Game of Thrones as one of the Night's Watch dudes.
Yeah.
It seemed interesting, but I found out from my friend it's actually based on a book and everything. But have people been saying like the adaptation has been good, like from the book and everything to Netflix? Or
generally, it's been pretty well received as far as I can tell.
Okay, cool.
It is based on a very well-respected Chinese novel, and it is a complete story, so that you don't have the Game of Thrones problem of they've run out of book, but there's still story to finish. So it is a completed trilogy of books. There is stuff to work with. They haven't got that issue. They did a good job with it, which, as I said before, the only thing that slightly annoys me is it shows how much they gave up on that final season of Game of Thrones because...
Oh, don't. You know what? I've got one rant about that, right? You know, the last... I'm sure this is a spoiler alert. I think everyone's seen Game of Thrones now. But like,
if you're going to say it.
But, you know, the end scene where there's, like, you know, the Daenerys in the throne room and all that kind of stuff, right? We spoke about earlier, you've never played From Software or anything like that. If you want to, go and have a look up after this. Anyone at home listening to this right now, because I'm surprised no one's pointed this out, but they literally ripped off the second to last boss from Demon Souls. I'm not even joking. The room, the broken throne, the end of the room being all smashed in, and guess what's outside? There's a bunch of dragons flying around, mate.
Oh my god.
And there's a person that wants to be king. Not so they just switched it to queen. It's like, oh, okay, guys.
Wow.
Not even joking. Mental.
Yeah. So that's the thing that annoyed me most about Three Body Problem wasn't the show itself, because I thought the show itself was excellent. What annoyed me was the fact that they could do this so well shows how much they gave up on that last season.
It sucks.
It really, really bugs me that. But yes, at least Netflix have committed to finishing the books. So,
okay, cool.
that is good news. Over on Disney Plus, they've renewed Welcome for Wrexham for a 4th season, which
Nice.
that's a great show. If you've not watched that, don't need to be a football fan to go and watch it, because it's as much about the fans of Wrexham as it is about Wrexham, the football team as well. It's really uplifting. It's really funny, and just a really lovely thing to go and watch. So that's back for a 4th season.
I've actually been following the progress of that on social media, because one of the guys, not Ryan Reynolds, the other dude, he's from a show called Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is one of my favorites.
Yes.
And they actually did a photo shoot and got the cast of Always Sunny over to come and hang out at Wrexham. And it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's really awesome. Rob's great. Ryan's fantastic. They come across so well in that, and genuinely come across about people that not only want to get the club higher up and, you know, get them further on in the league, but also really care about it and care about the effect that it has on the fans. And they understand that and are completely dedicated to it. And I mean, it is great PR for the pair of them as well, but they genuinely do seem to actually care, which is awesome. And the show is great. Yeah, the show is really great. Mr. and Mrs. Smith has been renewed for a 2nd season at Prime Video, although there is a caveat to that. Donald Glover and Myra Erskine, who starred in the 1st season, and Donald Glover wrote the 1st season of it, might not be coming back for the 2nd season. Now, if you've seen the show, I don't know whether you've seen it or not, but
yes, I have, yeah.
They introduced other Mr. and Mrs. Smiths.
Yes.
So I can sort of see how that could work. I just don't know if Donald Glover's actually going to be writing it, or whether he's just going to exec produce and hand off to somebody else. I mean, the show itself I thought was brilliant. It's very Donald Glover and nothing like the movie, but it's really good and very enjoyable. It's just, it's unclear whether those two are actually going to come back, or whether it's going to focus on a different Mr. and Mrs. Smith and they're going to do something else. There are rumours that they're not. I know Donald Glover's, I think, doing a final tour as Childish Gambino.
Yeah. I was actually listening to him yesterday, weirdly enough. Yeah. Great singer.
I think he's got final tour starting next year, because I think he's retiring that persona. That may interfere with them doing this as well. So I don't know, but it's not official that they're not coming back. But those are the rumours surrounding it, that they may not be. But there is
maybe
a second
cameo appearance. You know,
yeah, maybe it follows another Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and then they come in to do guest spots as the other Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So I don't know. That would be an interesting way to take it, I guess. But it's whether he's writing it as well, though, is the other thing. So I don't know. Sticking with Prime Video, The Boys has been renewed for a 5th season, which is great news. Before season 4 even has aired, season 4 due fairly soon. So 5th season also renewed for that as well, because it did feel like maybe they were going to come to an end with that, but no, it's going to come back for a 5th season, which is good
amazing.
News.
I'm a huge Garth Ennis fan. Like, I've loved all his comics, and like when I found out they were doing The Boys, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, and they really have as well. I mean, they've taken the essence of that comic and just wild and crazy, and do such a good job with it.
And they actually got the author involved with The Boys.
Yeah.
That's why it actually works really well, because he's I read in an interview with him recently about how like he didn't really do a justice to Starlight in the comics. Like, because he was like on about like some of his female characters weren't strong enough. So he rewrote those characters for the show to give them more power and strength and everything. And it's massive respect, dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But like, he's been involved in that. Way better than Preacher, sadly. That could have been an amazing show. I don't know if you ever watched that.
Yeah, I kind of dropped off that. It got away from me a bit. I mean, I enjoyed the first sort of season of it, and then, it kind of fell off a cliff a bit. So
sad.
Yeah, so real shame that. I thought they did a good job with Gen V as well. I thought the spin-off was really good.
Still yet to finish that. I've watched a few episodes. I was like, oh, this is good. But then I started falling asleep because I was really tired that night. So I was like, okay, I'll put this on another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good.
I think they're starting to shoot the next season of that. They've got a slight bit of rewriting to do, because Chance Paderno, who's played the best friend of the sort of main jock character, Chance sadly passed away in a motorbike accident as they were starting to prep to get filming filming for that. He was killed in a motorbike accident. So they've obviously had to write around that. They don't want to recast the role. They've said they're going to go and continue, but finding a way to sort of write that character out of the show, which is a real shame because, I mean, he was one of the main leads of it. Tragic that sort of happened.
It's so sad when that happens.
Michael Rosenbaum Inside of You podcast actually did an interview with him only sort of a few weeks or months before it actually happened. And, you know, he's quite insightful, interesting interview where he's sort of talking about, you know, how much he looks up to people like Tom Cruise that does his own stunts and, you know, ride motorbikes and that sort of thing. And listening to that now, you kind of, it's eerie. But yes, that will be coming back. They are doing a new season and they're just having to obviously write around that. But yeah, Boys itself, that is coming back for a 5th season as well.
Incredible.
Which is great news. Moving on to pick up some other news, we've got a few air dates for you of shows coming up. There is a show called Those About to Die, which is a really interesting looking series. It's set in Rome. It's inspired by a non-fiction book of the same name. It's basically about the sort of, you know, chariot racing, gladiatorial fights in ancient Rome and all that sort of stuff.
Nice.
And it's Anthony Hopkins is playing the lead in it. It's got Ewan Rion in it as well, directed by Roland Emmerich. That looks like it's going to be a really interesting series. It's Peacock in the US on the 18th of July, and then it looks like it's going to be Prime Video in a lot of territories because they had the international rights for it, and that's on the 19th of July. They've not specifically said the UK, but it seems like we're covered under the sort of other territories for Prime Video. But 19th of July, that is landing there. Heartstopper back for a 3rd season. That's on Thursday, the 3rd of October on Netflix. That will be coming back. Only Murders in the Building back for its 4th season on the 27th of August. That is returning, which I'm very much looking forward to. That's
great show.
A fantastic show. It's a show that's way better than it really should be, I think.
I know. It's just seeing Steve Martin and Mark Lawrence together again. It's just like, this is great. I mean, the last time I saw them was like, what, Three Amigos?
They are hilarious together. And it was one of those things when the first season came out, you're like, okay, Steve Martin, Martin Short, great.
I'm sorry, Martin Short, not Martin Lawrence. I got that wrong.
No, that's fine. Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. It's just like,
I know, right?
She's so good at it. I mean,
she's brilliant.
Brilliant people. That's been phenomenal. Starriest cast yet for this latest season. They've got a ridiculous amount of cameos and guest stars because they go to LA in this season as well. So there's a lot of stuff shot around Paramount Studios and all that sort of stuff. So it's really, really good. But that looks like it's brilliant. And over on the BBC, they've ordered a new series called Paddy and Chris Road Tripping, which is basically trying to find something to do with the Top Gear presenters. Now Top Gear's no longer around. If you followed all the stuff with Top Gear, you know Top Gear is now being taken off air or shelved for the foreseeable future after they nearly killed Freddie Flintoff during a stunt.
I didn't see about that. Oh my God.
No, serious life-changing injuries to Freddie Flintoff. I mean, he's up and around, but they flipped a car, I think. And
I remember this. Sorry. Yeah. Oh my God.
They ended up paying $9 million or something in compensation to him for it, but they've now shelved Top Gear for the foreseeable future. What they have done is they've got Paddy McGuinness and Chris Harris back together for a new European travel show. So it's basically them traveling around various places in sort of, Sweden, Greece, Switzerland. They're both about to sort of hit midlife, middle age and soon to be 50 and that sort of thing. So they're meeting some of the healthiest, happiest, not to mention well-preserved and long-living people alive. So that's sort of it's essentially, it looks like it's going to be a fun travel show with the pair of them without the car reviews, which is essentially what the specials were. It's only 3 episodes, but if you like those from Top Gear, that will probably be one worth checking out, I think. They're filming that, I think, soon, so it's probably going to be next year before that drops, but it's called Paddy and Chris Road Tripping at the moment.
I'll keep an eye out for that.
Keep an eye out for that one. On to some other news stories. Disney Plus has finally announced a September premiere date for the ever-changing title of the Agatha series. This was the Agatha House of Harkness, it was originally called. Then they changed it to Coven of Chaos, then Darkhold Diaries, and then my favourite one, which is The Lying Witch with Great Wardrobe. I love that title. But
Amazing.
of course, they've done what you expected them to do in the first place and just gone, it's Agatha all along. So the show is called Agatha all along. Now, that is going to be the final title for it.
Okay.
But that will be landing in September. The exact date for it is 18th of September. That will be landing on Disney Plus in the UK and US. Reintroducing Catherine Hahn as Agatha Harkness, who is broken out of the spell that she's been trapped in and is trying to go back to her old murderous ways, only to find out that she's actually powerless. So has to go on a perilous quest to try and get her power back. Is essentially the setup for it.
Okay, that sounds good.
So yeah, it sounds. I mean, she was absolutely scene stealing in WandaVision.
Oh, she's an incredible actress. I mean, I remember her in God. I think the first time I saw her was in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And every time she was in a scene, she just stole the scene. She was hilarious.
Yeah, she's utterly wonderful and very much looking forward to seeing what they do with that. And it's the same people that wrote WandaVision that are behind it as well. So
brilliant. I love that show.
Too. You've also got Aubrey Plaza in there as well, Patti LuPone, Sasha Zamata, Annie Al, John Locke, Emma Caulfield is in there, or Emma Caulfield Ford, as she is now from Buffy.
Okay.
She is in there as well. There's a few other people. So there's a good selection of people that are popping up in that. They also gave a little bit of an update on the sort of vague time we're going to see the Daredevil series, which is going to premiere in March 2025 for that new Daredevil Born Again series. So that's Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio both back, alongside John Bernthal as Punisher as well. And
nice.
You've got Karen and Foggy, I think, are both back. I think that's all been confirmed as well. So it's basically all the old team from the Netflix versions of the show. They did go through some major rewrites. They basically went, this isn't working, and stopped production after they'd done about 4 episodes.
Really? Why?
Yeah. They were going just in a direction that Marvel took a look at it and went, this doesn't work. And decided that I think they needed it to be darker. They needed it to work a lot better. Both Charlie and Vincent have said that they have had a lot of creative input into where it goes now, which I think when they were first brought on, they didn't. I think they fired the original screenwriters and brought in new people. So it's been through a bit of turmoil, but it sounds like they're on the right track now. And March 2025, that is going to land. And nice. The other one, which is the Ironheart series, which brings Dominic Thorne back as Riri Williams and introduces Anthony Ramos as the Hood, that is coming later in 2025. But we don't know exactly when that is going to land yet. They've just said later. So I would guess autumnish probably for that one, given that it's March for the Daredevil series. Yeah, that's coming later next year. So those to look out for. Back over onto Prime Video, and they've given a live action series order to a Tomb Raider series, which could be quite interesting. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows who Tomb Raider is at this point. Lara Croft, adventuring archaeologist, looking for forgotten artifacts and locations and that sort of stuff.
Killer of T-Rexes.
Killer of T-Rexes. Yes, absolutely. And the person that is behind it, though, is Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Okay.
She is going to be the person that is writing. She's not starring in it. She's just writing it. She seems to be a big fan. She says, if you could tell my teenage self that this was happening, I think she'd explode.
Yeah. Amazing.
She is a huge fan of Lara Croft and Tomb Raider, and I think she'll do it justice. It's interesting because she's done a few odd things quite recently, because that Mr. and Mrs. Smith series that we talked about earlier, she was originally co-writing that with Donald Glover.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they amicably parted ways. I think they disagreed which direction it was supposed to go. My guess is she wanted it to go a bit more sort of action, and Donald wanted to do Donald. Yeah. And she went, look, and she basically said, look, you know what you want to do with it. I'm going to step back, you do it, and just handed it over to him.
Okay, fair.
So it was all completely amicable, but it's just that they had different visions of what it was supposed to be. And she then got brought on to do the indie movie, script writing duties on that, to punch it up and also star in it. So she monkeyed around with the script with that. And that seemed to have made Prime look at her and go, well, she can write for archaeologists. So she's now got this Lara Croft gig, which is great because she'll be brilliant at this. She writes female characters as well. She's obviously likes the action stuff. I think this is really, really good. Obviously, series based on the video game. It's from a deal between Crystal Dynamics and Amazon MGM Studios. They're also looking at developing a new multi-platform Tomb Raider game as well, alongside this, which is going going to be another single-player, narrative-driven action-adventure, standard sort of Tomb Raider setup, but they're going to be doing another Tomb Raider as well. Don't know who's going to be playing Lara yet, but Phoebe Waller-Bridge as writer and exec producer on it. What's your background with the Tomb Raider stuff?
Tomb Raider, oh my god, I played Tomb Raider like since I can remember. Like, I remember like buying Silent Hill and Tomb Raider on the same day when I was a kid off the market, you know?
Yeah.
But I will say, like, first of all, before I do go into like my opinion on it, I do find it so like I said this years ago, right? How my generation or people around our age or whatever, our age group, they grew up playing these games and everything, and now they're going to be in the industry and they're going to want to work on their favorite game franchise and everything. And like, right here's a perfect example of someone that's a huge fan of Tomb Raider, and they're going to be behind making the show. And it's like, this is it. We're actually having fans of the games now making the movies and the shows. It's so exciting. But I really loved Tomb Raider as a kid. I thought they were ridiculous, so hard. Like, I wanted to jump off of things, and then I just did a completely different jump, and now I'll die.
Yeah.
But I loved hanging out in the mansion when I was a kid and stuff. But like with the remakes they did, are really refreshing, making it a bit more mature rated and stuff, like, you know, just making it a bit more grisly, like, you know, meaty, you know, and you actually felt for the character in some parts where it's just like, oh my god, she's going through hell. Like, yeah. I was talking about this with a friend because I saw about this being announced, and it's like, I'm curious to see which direction they go, because they've obviously, when they did the original Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie, they really tried to make that like the PS1 games and over stylize it and everything, you know, like they did back in the day. And then with the last one they did, they tried to make it like the remake of the games, right?
Yeah.
So if they're going to do like a whole new, from the information you said, like them basically making a new rehash of Tomb Raider alongside the TV show and everything, it'd be interesting to see if they get the same actress to do the voice acting as well in the game and stuff. And like,
yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting one with this. Are they going to keep that kind of continuity with it? But in recent years, the TV shows based on video games have become a lot better than they were. You know, I mean, we've had The Last of Us, Twisted Metal, that's a phenomenal
keep
series.
forgetting about that.
Yeah, well worth watching. It's way better than you think it's going to be, because you do look at it and think, how on earth do you make a TV show about what was essentially a demolition derby game? And I interviewed the writer for that, really wonderful guy, and he did an outstanding job with that. It's a brilliant series. If you've got Paramount Plus, go and check out Twisted Metal. It's a great series. So that's been good. I mean, even the Halo series, which I know is hated by a lot of fans of the franchise, but as somebody who doesn't play Halo very much, I think the TV universe that they've created as a sci-fi thing actually is quite a good TV show. It's just not really Halo.
I heard that everyone's mad because it's like, why did Master Chief take off his helmet?
Yeah,
it's like,
because it's a TV show and they want to see his face. I mean, yeah, and I get that criticism, but what I rather loved, I mean, I said this before, I loved the second season where they basically went, well, we've lost all the people that hated the fact that he took off his helmet, so we're just going to take his entire suit away for 3 episodes. It's like, yeah, you go for it, you know?
Amazing, just go hard.
Yeah, just really funny. So yeah, I mean, I really like that. I mean, The Last of Us is the pinnacle of those sorts of adaptations, most definitely. But they do show that there are ways of doing these, you know, video game to TV adaptations. There's ways of doing them really well. And I think she's the perfect person to take this on. So that should be good. Another Prime Video series that they ordered was Spider-Man Noir, which is going to be just titled Noir, apparently. For some reason, they've decided not to put the Spider-Man on the start of it.
That's strange.
Which is odd, but it's going to star Nick Cage.
Hey, amazing.
Who, of course, voiced Spider-Man Noir in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse animated films. He's going to be doing it in live action, apparently, now.
Live action? Oh my God, that's amazing.
It is going to be live action. The idea is it's set obviously in its own universe, separate from the other sort of spider stuff. It's an aging, down on his luck private investigator played by Nick Cage in 1930s New York who is forced to grapple with his past life as the city's one and only superhero. It is kind of a version of the character that we saw him play in Into the Spider-Verse, although it's probably not going to be a Peter Parker variant. It's probably going to be somebody else. but it's from Oren Usley, I think his name is, who did 22 Jump Street and The Lost City, and Steve Lightfoot, who worked on Punisher and Shatteram, which was an Apple series. They're going to be co-showrunners and exec producers. Lord and Miller, who did the animated movies, which are fantastic, they are going to be exec producer on it as well. And Harry Bradbeer, who was the Emmy-winning director of Fleabag and Killing Eve, is going to be the person.
Was amazing.
Yeah, so he's going to be directing the first 2 episodes of it as well. This is an interesting one. They had originally, or they still have, a deal between Sony Marvel's stuff and Prime to develop this kind of Spider-Verse. And they did previously announce one, which was Silk Spider Society. They've now apparently completely ditched that. That was going to be coming from Angela Kang, who was the Walking Dead showrunner in the later seasons. They've now apparently decided that they're not moving forward with that one, but they are going to do Spider-Man Noir instead. So
okay. I'm interested to see how they'll do it live action. Like, the first initial thought is surely they'll do it like some kind of stylized, like, you know, like how they did Sin City back in the day, black and white, like everything over the top.
I do wonder if it's going to be black and white, if they're going to go down that sort of route with it. I can see Nick Cage doing this because it gives them a chance to sort of ham it up a little bit, and it's sort of 1930s detective New York PI sort of thing. I can see this working. So it's an interesting one for them to pick up. As I said, they did previously order Silk Spider Society, but that has now gone by the wayside. So this will be the first one that they're doing of those sort of spider things. And the last story we've got, our beloved Red Dwarf is apparently returning for 3 new episodes or a 90-minute special, depending on whether they cut it up or not, according to reports. This hasn't been officially announced by, well, either the BBC or UK TV, who've been running the more recent stuff. It was something that came from Crichton himself, Robert Llewellyn, and basically said it's going to be a 90-minute special, 3.5 hours. So yes, we are making more. I can't believe I agreed to do it. It's insane. I'm much too old.
Amazing.
So they're apparently beginning filming in September 2024. It will be released in 2025. We haven't seen them since 2020, basically because there was a bunch of legal issues over who owned the rights. I don't know whether you followed any of that.
I did hear about all this, and that was crazy.
Yeah. So basic setup of it is that the original people that created it was Rob Grant and Doug Naylor. They were childhood friends. They wrote on it and set up a production company called Grant Naylor Productions. They were the people that ran it up to a certain point, and then Rob decided he didn't want to do it anymore and stepped away, or there was some disagreement between the pair of them. Doug carried on his own, and then in March 2020, Doug was removed from the board of their own company, Grant Naylor Productions, for reasons that still haven't become clear. The company claimed he'd resigned. He claimed they fired him. There was a lawsuit. That went through, and eventually it was resolved in March 2023. We don't know exactly how it resolved either, but it ended up with Doug being back on the board. Rob had always been on the board. Though he had not been writing for Red Dwarf, he'd still been on the board of the company. Doug is now back, and things are back to normal. So they're making World Red Dwarf again. There may be some more novels coming from Rob, because Rob wrote some of the books as well. And he sort of said at the time when this lawsuit was resolved that Rob wanted to do a bit more in terms of making books and that sort of thing. So the chances are there might be some more books in Red Dwarf coming as well. But on the TV side, it looks like it's going to be back to the status quo, and they're making either a new special or 3 new episodes. But it should have the whole team back of Chris, Craig, Danny, Rob, and presumably Norman as well. This is a show I've watched since I was a child.
Oh, same, dude. I was just thinking, it's insane how long this has been running for. Like, it's nearly 40 years, right?
Yeah, it's got to be, because I have been a fan of this literally since I watched the first episode go out live on TV, and I had a video recorder in my room, and was a fairly rare thing back in the day, because you're talking 80s. And I had my own video recorder, and it got halfway through the first episode, and I was like, I'm going to record this. This is good. So shoved a tape in. So for years, I had like half the very first episode on videotape.
Oh, wow.
And then every episode after that, because I would tape them off the TV. So I mean, those first few seasons I have seen millions and millions of times. Just a massive, massive fan of them. I've met quite a lot of the cast over the years. I met Chris and I've met Danny. I think I've met Rob. I've certainly seen them at conventions and seen Craig as well. But,
amazing. That's awesome.
Really fun guys. And they're always entertaining to interview and that sort of stuff. So yeah. But
it's nice to see that they're still like committed to the roles though and still doing this, you know, and not just fobbing it off and saying, I don't want to do it anymore, you know.
Yes, no. None of them have decided they're too big for it. They're all kind of, they go off and do other things. And, you know, Rob has his YouTube channels and, you know, Chris does a few other shows and Craig's got the radio things and Daddy's got other acting roles that he does, but they always come back to it eventually. So I just said that's not been officially announced. I'm assuming it's been made for Dave, the UK TV channel, but the entire run of Red Dwarf is actually also on iPlayer as well now. So if you want to go and check out Red Dwarf from the beginning, it is all up on iPlayer. You can go and get it there.
Amazing.
But yes, that should be coming back as well. So that's all the news we've got for this week. Just some highlights for next week on TV. So a few things coming up next week on TV. We've got Trying returning for its 4th season. That's on Apple TV on the 22nd of May. That will be coming back. There's a new show called Insomnia that's coming to Paramount Plus. It's an adaptation of a novel and it stars Vicky McClure in the leading role of that from Line of Duty and Trigger Point and all those other things. It's a woman that is starting to lose her mind because she can't sleep, basically. It's the sort of setup for that. But that sounds like it could be quite an interesting show. That's called Insomnia, Paramount Plus on the 23rd of May for that one. Jurassic World Chaos Theory, that lands on the 24th of May on Netflix. This is a direct sequel to Camp Cretaceous. It's another animated series, so some of the same characters, but grown up a little older. Then we've got a new special from South Park. That's coming to Paramount Plus on the 25th of May. I think this is Cartman using Ozempic, the weight loss drug. I think is the idea of that one.
Amazing.
We've got My Adventures with Superman, Season 2 coming to Channel 4 streaming as part of their Adult Swim collection. That's on the 26th of May. That's a really good adaptation of Superman, animated adaptation of Superman. If you've not seen that one, it's worth going to check out. Season 1 is already up there. Season 2, My Adventures of Superman, coming 26th of May. And The Sympathizer, which is an espionage thriller and cross-culture satire based on a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel. That's coming to Sky Atlantic on the 27th of May at 9 p.m. and stars Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Downey Jr., who plays various different roles in it, apparently. So that, if you're a Robert Downey Jr. fan, it's certainly one to go and check out. But that's called The Sympathizer. It's coming to Sky Atlantic. Yeah, some interesting stuff coming this week, I think. Certainly, I will be checking out My Adventures with Superman. I might look at Insomnia. But yeah, so I've got lots of stuff around on TV at the moment. There's some great TV out there worth checking out. So just remind people again, if people want to follow you and find out more, thank you for coming on the show, by the way.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure and a blast.
I've really, really enjoyed having you on. If people want to go and follow you on social or follow you on Twitch or places like that, where can they find you?
Well, I'm mainly on Twitch. I'm live weekdays on there. I'm twitch.tv/CloneKorp. I'm CloneKorp on all my socials. I'm mainly on TikTok. I've got my YouTube channel where you can go and check out basically my entire archive of where I used to do my Friday night specials, where it was TV level production game shows, like basically stuff from the 90s, dude, like Shooting Stars and Family Fortunes and all that kind of stuff. I basically recreated all that and like blankety blank and everything, all TV level production, 3D design sets and everything, fully animated, and they're fully interactive with the chat, so they could drop bits in, and depending on how many bits they dropped, it changed the scores randomly, so no one was a winner.
Fantastic.
But, yeah, if you want to check out any of that stuff, that's on YouTube. I post on TikTok and everything. But yes, come and follow me, come and check me out and see what I'm doing, because I'm always trying to learn the next thing that no one else is doing on Twitch.
Awesome. Yeah, so go and check out CloneKorp over there. Corp with a K, of course, as well.
Yes.
For other people involved in the podcast, you can also go and find Matt over on entertainmenttalk.org for lots and lots more podcasts, and Daryl, who's over at hollywoodnorthnews.net for all those TV TV series you love which are shot in Canada. For us, you can visit the website at geektown.co.uk throughout the week and see all the latest air date information. If you want to get in touch with your questions or comments, email us on podcast@geektown.co.uk. Leave a message on the website post. Find us at Geektown on Twitter, on Facebook at facebook.com/Geektown, YouTube at youtube.com/Geektown, Blue Sky at Geektown, Instagram at Geektown UK, TikTok at Geektown UK, and Threads at Geektown UK. That is everything. We won't see you next week because I'm at MCN Comic Con next weekend, so I'm not going to do a show on Monday because the last thing I'm going to want to do is a show after 3 days at Comic Con.
Oh, so, no, dude, you want to relax after that.
So we'll be skipping the show next week. We'll be back the week after. See you then. Goodbye.
Bye.